Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jamie and this is Stitching and Wishing, a Flosstube channel here on YouTube. It has been a couple months since my last video. Today is Saturday, February 10th, and I had quite a pile going. I'm gonna move this back so I feel like the camera's rocking a little bit. My last regular Flosstube video was in early December. I did do a plans video and a whip parade between then and now. I did a whip parade right around the 1st of January, and I appreciate everybody who's watched that and commented on it, and I've got quite a number of new subscribers since I posted those 2 videos, so welcome. I'm so happy that you liked me enough that you wanted to subscribe. I'm not very regular about posting these updates, but I had quite a pile building up, and today seemed like a good day to sit down and film one. I'm in a little bit of a different setup today, but I think it'll work. Charlie's back there sleeping. Can you see him? I think he's a little fuzzy, but he's snoring a little bit. So my apologies for that, but he's cute. I'll post a picture of him at some point in this video, so you'll see how cute he is. Speaking of my whip parade, I appreciate everybody who watched it, but I do think that that is probably going to be my first and last parade of all of my whips. I think moving forward, if I do a whip parade, it will only be on things that I touch. So like if I do a whip parade at the end of this year, it'll be just what I worked on in 2024. I think that'll kind of keep it smaller, and I'll remember maybe a little more about some of my projects. I did, so if you didn't watch my whip parade, I came into the 1st of January with at least 88 whips. I did narrow that down a little bit. I unkitted a few things, and I UFO'd a couple of projects that I just don't think I'm ever gonna finish. But there was also a lot of good stuff in that pile that I really want to get back to, and so I think I'm gonna try to work some of those in this year. But it is what it is. And everybody seemed to really enjoy my plans video. I like watching the plans videos, and so it was fun to make one. But I might have mentioned that I'm not very good at keeping plans, so they're meant to be broken or changed. I have been doing a very good job with my stitching. With tracking my stitching, which was a big goal of mine this year. I bought this planner, a cross stitch planner from My Crazy Life. I got mine from the Colorado Cross Stitcher shop, but I think that you can probably order these direct from Lori. It is a really good planner. I know a lot of people use the Book of Days, but the Book of Days never really worked out for me. There's a few things that I love about this one. One, it's bound. These are my stickers I put on the front. But it's got the full, here's my January. So I did stitch every single day in January, which feels great. I had a lot of new starts. I started 9 new projects in January, so I'm tracking my new starts along the side here. And then I'm color coding. So if it's green, a green highlight, that's a new start. A pink highlight is a finish. Yellow is an event. And blue is, I traveled a little bit in January, so those are travel days. So the event I have there was a local guild meeting. So in January, I had 9 starts, 3 finishes, and I am tracking those on this page. I started to track purchases, but then I decided that wasn't going to work. But here's all my new starts, my finishes, and then these are my goals for the month. So my goals included focusing on a sampler project. So in January, it was my New Year New Start, which I'll show you in a minute, which was the Needleworker sampler from With Thy Needle and Thread. I picked a 25/7 project, but I did really terrible at stitching 25/7. I did stitch every day and I probably got 25 minutes, but it wasn't focused stitching on one project. So that was kind of a fail. I did decide to do WIPGO this year, but I'm doing my WIPGO a lot differently. Here, I'll show you my WIPGO board. So I printed and taped my WIPGO board in the back of my planner. And as you'll see, it's mostly blank. So what I decided to do is I am working on 24 WIPs in 2024. So I took those 24 WIPs and I've made a list of them. And each month when Jessie Marie calls the numbers, I'm going through that list and I'm just picking 2 that call to me. I don't want to prearrange that because I want a little bit of flexibility on what I stitch and what I want to focus on. And I am also going to reward myself. So when I finish one of these WIPGO squares, I am going to put the amount of the square in an envelope, cash. So for instance, number 22 was Heartstring Samplery, the Old Rugged Cross. I managed to finish that project. So as soon as I go to the bank and get some cash, I will be putting $22 in an envelope and saving that and seeing how much I can build up before the end of the year. If I finish all 24 squares, that should be around $300. And I can do what I want with it. So I will most likely buy myself something cross-stitch related, but who knows? Maybe I want to put it towards a trip or a retreat, or who knows? But I think that that incentive is doing me good. And so far, I mean, it is only February 10th. So I don't want to give myself too many kudos, but I've been doing pretty good with the tracking and the and working on my WIPGO projects. So just to pull up, here's my February calendar so far. I haven't filled in this weekend. I do have a couple of events. So I have a guild meeting, and then tomorrow I'm going to participate in the Superb Owl, I don't know what you call it, event, mini retreat, virtual retreat that is being hosted by Lindy Stitches and Kathy Haberman from Hands On Design. So I think it'll be fun. It seems to me like it's a mini jingle ball, and I really enjoyed the jingle ball, and I think this will be a lot of fun. I think there's still time to sign up. So if you are watching this on Saturday the 10th, go sign up for it. It does cost a little more than the jingle ball. I think it's $35, but that includes at least 2 projects, the patterns, and some entertainment for the afternoon. So I personally am not into watching the Super Bowl and would have probably just watched a movie and stitched or did something during that time anyway. So this is perfect for me. Okay, I feel like I've been talking really fast, but let's get into the stitching. So one thing that I went into January telling myself is that I was going to be more intentional with my stitching and truck better. And I've been doing fairly good with that. I had a little bit of a downfall from that at the end of January when I went into a major startitis and started a bunch of things. I think there was one weekend when I started 3 new projects. But I've also been doing pretty good about focusing on just a few things that I want to work on, my WIPGO and a couple of other projects. And I've had some finishes. So since my last video, I have finished 7 things. Wait, before I do that, in my last video, I showed you the ornament that, I think it was my last video, that I had made for an ornament exchange that I was doing with my StitchCon friends. So my StitchCon friends are a group of beautiful, wonderful ladies that I met at StitchCon last year. We decided to draw names and do an ornament exchange, and this is the one I got. Hopefully it'll focus because you need to see the sparkle. This is from Teresa. It is a JBW stocking. She finished it lovely as a little stocking, and her stitching is just beautiful. I don't know exactly what she stitched it on. It's an opalescent fabric, and it's just, I love it. I was so happy with it and just thrilled that she did that for me. And we did, after the exchange, the question was asked, are we going to do it again next year? I think that we probably will, but I kind of demurred and said, let's talk about it at StitchCon. So I am going to StitchCon weekend B, and I get to sit with all the friends I made last year, and we certainly have room. So if you're coming to StitchCon B, maybe by yourself or something, message me, and I would love to walk in with you, and you can sit with us and you can join our friend group. There's always room for more friends. Let's see what other finishes I had. So also in December, I stitched and finished a little pillow for my sister-in-law. And so I will insert a picture of that because I don't have it. I gifted it to her at Christmas. But it was from Sweet Wing Studio, Pray Without Ceasing. I stitched it on some really pretty green fabric that I had in my stash. Little dog's over there trying to make herself a bed on the couch. This is why my furniture has holes in it. That's what that noise is. She's scratching on the couch. There's no blanket. She's just trying to make herself a bed. She's cute. I'll put a picture of her in too because she's also adorable. All my dogs are adorable. But yes, so Pray Without Ceasing, I will insert a picture of that. I loved the finish. It was a really pretty stitch and she loved it, so even more important. My next finish was from Modern Folk Embroidery. This is Underneath the Christmas Tree. So I stitched this because I purchased the wrapped pearl ribbon kit from Katie Strike and Embroidery. Y'all, I couldn't figure that out. I watched her tutorial 3 times and I could not figure that one out for the life of me. So I just decided to just finish this as a little ornament. So it's stitched on 40 count white Lugana with 103 silk that came in that kit. It's a really pretty green. I don't know the color, but I just finished it as a little ornament. There's green on the back, some dog hair, and just some, just gotta focus, green rickrack around the edge. My next finish in December was from Heart and Hand, the Fa La La Imprints. I stitched the tree. So here's this one. This is just a 32 count. I don't know what the fabric is. It was something in my stash. I did start Fa La La, but this is all I got on it. So, I'm using 103 silks that I had in my stash. So, here's those. And one thing, on 32 count, I like to stitch with 2 threads. The 103 with 2 threads doesn't work. My stitches really don't look good. I don't know how well you can see that, but I don't know if it was because I was trying to use 2 threads or because I loop started it, but I wasn't enjoying it. And so when I went back and started Fa La La, I'm just using one strand, and I do think the stitches look a lot better and it's a lot easier to deal with. So when I go back and finish this, which I will be doing, I'll just be using one strand of that silk. My big January finish was, I'm just gonna unwrap this and hold it up. Farmhouse Christmas. Let me put this behind it, maybe that'll help. From Little House Needleworks. So if you've seen my videos before, you know I've been working on this for a while. This was a WIP for a couple of years. And in December I pulled it out and I was enjoying stitching on it, and I really made it a focus. I tried really hard to get it done in December, but didn't quite make it. So I think I finished this on like January 6th or something like that, which is completely fine. A finish is a finish and I love it. So I am going to be ordering a frame for this. I just haven't had the time to sit down and do that. But very happy to have that done, even if it was a 2024, not a 2023 finish. My next WIP was my Blessing sampler. So this is from Gigi R. Ellen Johnson, 1883. So this is a special release that Gigi R put out through Needlework Press. And you did get 2 samplers with it. I think it was $10. And all of the proceeds were going to Doctors Without Borders. And so I started this on January 1st and I finished it, I don't know, maybe the 20th or 20th, maybe like the 20th of January. I did rechart the bottom. So on the chart it says Ellen Johnson, age 9 years, in her school. I changed it and made it my name, so I had to kind of shift things over because my last name is a little bit longer. My age, and then I just put Blessings Abound. So I recharted that a little bit. I stitched this on 40 count white Lugana with Roxy Floss Co. Follow Red. And I love it. This one is also going to get a little frame. It's my first Blessing sampler, and I don't think it'll be my last. I already have a few picked out in my head to work on next year. So my next finish was from the Proper Stitcher. This is When Flowers Bloom. So this is one of my New Year's Eve 12 by 12 starts. I started 3 projects on New Year's Eve, and this was one of them, and I finished it. So here is my finish. So I stitched this on 40 count Grace Notes fabric mint matcha, which it's pretty much, looks a little dirty, like a grungy white with the called for NPI silks, which are beautiful. And I'm gonna stitch this again. I have it kitted up. I haven't started it yet, but I'm going to a retreat in March, and I think this will be a lovely retreat small. Here's the MPIs. They're kind of a bird's nest, huh? But they're beautiful. So I've got it kitted up with another piece of this mint matcha. I'm gonna stitch it exactly the same with the called for NPIs. And I'll probably make it into a little pillow as an exchange gift. And my most recent finish was from Heartstring Samplery. It's from this book. If it all focus. This is her Sunday samplers, or Sunday stitches. I had bought this chart when it was just a single chart. It's this one, the Old Rugged Cross. And I've told you in previous videos why this hymn was important to me. It was my dad's favorite hymn, and so whenever I hear it or think about it, I think about him. And here is my finish. I love this. I think it's so pretty. Oops. I stitched it on a 32 count, picture this plus Haversham linen, so it's kind of a off-white with all the called for overdyes. I think they were all Weeks Dye Works threads, but I absolutely love it. And this one is also getting a frame as soon as I sit down and order some. Love it. There are certainly a few more in here that I would like to stitch. I think if I stitch another one soon, it'll be this one. It says, "Love so divine demands my soul, my life, my all." I love it. So I'm not religious, but I did grow up in the church, and I grew up singing hymns, and I understand and appreciate them, and I think they're still beautiful, and their message is still good. So those are all my finishes. WIPs. I have a lot of WIPs. So I'm gonna start with my WIPGO. So my January WIPGO calls were the Old Rugged Cross, which I finished. And the second one was Antique Birds in Cages. So in addition to like the numbers are called of picking the projects that I want to work on, I'm also setting some goals for those. So Old Rugged Cross, I knew I wanted to finish, and so the goal for that was to finish, and the goal for this one is also to finish it, which should be doable. It didn't happen in January, and I think I know why. Here's where we are. So I did finish this bird, and I almost finished this cage, but not quite. This is 40 count shiplap from Color and Cotton, and I believe it's the called for thread, which is, or maybe not. I don't remember what thread I'm stitching. It's a gentle art. If you really want to know, ask me below and I will tell you. But so the reason I don't think I got this done in January was, one, I was really focused on my Blessing sampler, and I knew that I wanted to get that one done in January. And I also took Birds in Cages as my travel project. So it was either in my work bag or in my car. So I like to always have something with me. I do take it into work because there are times when I'm in a long meeting or something and I pull out my stitching and I stitch on it, but I didn't have time for that in January. I put a few stitches in it, but I just didn't have a lot of free time, so it didn't get worked on and it wasn't a focus, but it's gonna stay in my rotation, and hopefully before the end of the year it will be a finish. Next up is my New Year, New Start. This is the Needleworker sampler from With Thy Needle and Thread. Which I love. It's wrinkly, but I'll show it to you. So I am stitching this on 46 count latte from Extrude Design, and I am just pulling floss from my stash. So it's mostly color and cotton is what I've pulled so far with, I don't know, maybe a classic color work or something. I was trying in January to at least get the house done, because I thought if I worked down and got that big red house done, the rest would go a lot quicker and smoother. But I didn't quite make that. I got distracted by other projects and new starts. But I do fully intend to get back to this one because I think it's just lovely. Even if it's wrinkly, it's still pretty. Back in December, I was seeing a whole bunch of finishes of this chart. This is from Abby Rose Designs. This is a primitive Merry Christmas pillow. So it's my understanding that this chart is not out of print, but the designer might be having some health issues or something, and so it's hard to find. So if you happen to see this somewhere and you like it, you might pick it up. I know a lot of people probably have this in their stash or they've stitched it already. It was pretty popular when it first came out. But seeing so many people working on it or finishing it in December, I pulled mine out and this is where I got to on it. So this linen is 30 count Bolin from the Primitive Hair. It's just a script that you can't read. Somebody stitched this on this linen. I can't remember, but I was completely copying somebody else. This is not my original idea to pull out this linen. But it's lovely and it's beautiful, and it's definitely one that's going to stay in my rotation, and I'm going to stitch on it this year. When I pulled it out, I also got this Abbey Rose. Just 'tis the season. And I'm keeping it kitted up. I did get the threads and stuff for this one as well, and I'm keeping it kitted with that. So as soon as I finish Merry Christmas, I'm going to work on that one. I don't know if I'll do it on the same fabric. It'll kind of depend on if I have enough of that fabric left, but I love it, so it'll be one I'm going back to. And then this one I just showed you. I finished and I'm going to stitch it again for a retreat. This is how my mind works. So I do want to stitch it again for the retreat, but it's tiny and it feels so tiny that I feel like it needs something else. So I found this chart, which is top of the tin, 1 thread a day, from Linda Van Ostel, Van Accessibles. She's on Instagram and she sells her charts on Instagram. So if you like this or if you like any of her other charts, you have to private message her on Instagram and she'll send you a PayPal invoice. And then, I don't know, I got this in a couple of days. But I started stitching on it. So it's finished on top of one of those mint tins, which I do have some of. So I started stitching it using those same colors, so same NPI silks. These ones, my rat's nest, on the same fabric. So this is 40 count mint matcha from Grace Nuts Fabrics. It's wrinkly and it looks a little dirty, but it'll be stitched up and it'll fit just on top of one of those tins. And I have a few little goodies that I've been picking up that I will put in that tin as extras for the smalls exchange. So I think it's a good idea. It's something that I would certainly like getting in a smalls exchange. So hopefully whoever gets it will like it. Okay. And then in the last couple days, I've picked up my sister's sampler and Richardson. So I've showed this before. I started it a while ago because I saw this finished at StitchCon and completely fell in love with it. My plan is to work on it through at least Valentine's Day and see where I get. So this is where we are. The alphabet has been done, so I'm just down working on those flowers. Big, beautiful, amazing flowers down there in the pots. I'm stitching this on a 40 count Grace Notes Fabrics with Mocha with the called for Vicki Clayton silks. So Vicki Clayton sells a silk pack for this. And they're beautiful. I don't know if it'll show up in this light, but like this pink, this flower right here, just kind of sparkles with the silk. I think it's beautiful, and I love the combination of the silks on that 40 count for doll. And so it's a fun one to stitch, and I'm gonna keep stitching it. This was supposed to be my February sampler focus, but I've kind of changed my mind a little bit on this, but I did start it. This is from the Needle and Thread Every Opening Flower. And I also have the Vicki Clayton silk conversion pack for this. So here's my very small start. That's all I've gotten done. This is 40 count Overcast from Cedar River Linen with the Vicki Clayton silk. I do want to stitch that, and I do think that at some point I will go back to it, but I kind of want to finish the other samplers I'm working on first. So I only have so much time in the day. I wish I had time to stitch on everything 10 hours a day, but I don't. So my next WIP is from JBW Design. This is Stitching in the Round. This was my WIPGO call for this month, and it's also one that I am going to finish at StitchCon. So I started this at StitchCon last year, and I think that all my StitchCon friends, my table mates, we all bought a JBW chart, and we all started it while we were at StitchCon. And we were talking around Christmas time about if we wanted to do like a round robin or something like that. And I think we've all decided that we don't have time for a round robin. Like, that takes quite a bit of time. I mean, there's 6 of us in this group, and to stitch something 6 times doesn't sound that appealing. And sounds like a lot of pressure. So I suggested that we all stitch up our rounds. I think we're all doing a different one. A couple of us are doing the stitching in the round. But the plan is to have these almost done, but to leave one motif to finish at StitchCon so that we can all go up and ring the bell together. Because if you've been to StitchCon, one of the funnest parts is if you finish something, you get to go up to the front of the room and ring the bell. Everybody cheers and claps for you, and it's just nice. So that's the plan. So here is my progress on stitching in the round. I'm stitching this on a 25 count, 1/1. It's Grace Notes Fabrics Reese. And I'm using the Almond M&M silks that I picked up at StitchCon last year. So it's 2 shades of blue. One over one on 25 count. So it's going to be really tiny, but I love it, and I'm enjoying stitching on this. So I will definitely get this completed by June. So that'll be a planned StitchCon finish. I've never done that before, where you like go into StitchCon knowing that you're gonna have a finish, but this year it works for me and my friend group, so that's what we're gonna do. My second WIPGO call for the month was Little Robin Designs. This is Marianne Bennett, and my goal for WIPGO was to finish the border. And here is where we are with that. So I did have the blue portion of the border already stitched. I did that last year. So in the last couple weeks, I stitched all those red flowers and leaves along the border. I finished the bird and the flower, and then I just, because my Q-snap was in this position, I just worked on some of the motifs. So it's not going to be very big. This is 40 count cream and sugar from Fiber on a Whim with the called for overdyes. I did get this as a kit when I went to the Stitch Etc. retreat last fall. And I also have the material for finishing the little box, and I plan to stitch that. So my goal for February is to finish the border, but I do want this to be a finish this year. So I enjoy working on it, and hopefully that enjoyment will just kind of keep going, and I will keep stitching on it. And my final whip is also from Little Robin Designs. This is a Charming Cow sampler. This is my Journey piece. So Journey is something that my Sampler Guild does, where you sign a commitment in December to, you can commit to anything. I committed to finishing this by October. So that's the plan. I just committed to finishing, not FFOing, so it doesn't necessarily have to be framed, but I want to have it stitched. And I do have some hanging threads, but this is where I am. So I decided that in the 1st of February that I was just going to set some mini goals for this. So my February goals are to finish these top 2 lines of alphabet, including the border. So there's a border underneath, and there's a border there's double border all the way around, and then a border in between each row of alphabets. And so my plan is to get those done in February. So I have until October to get this done. I think I can do it. I committed to doing it. I do love stitching on it. So this is 40 count tephra from Cedar River Linen with all the called for threads. And there are some specialty stitches, but it's 40 count, so you can't really see. On either side of this heart up here, there are some round eyelets that I did. They're really cute. They're tiny, but they're cute. But that's my journey piece and the last whip I have to show you for today. Feels like a lot, but I think they're all doable, and there's nothing in that pile that I'm not enjoying stitching on, so my plans are to keep working on that. So in the month of February, I do want to finish the border on Marianne. I want to finish the top 2 rows of the Charming Cow. I want to restitch the When Flowers Bloom and finish the little tin to go along with that, since the retreat is in March and that's gonna jump up quick. I did figure out, I think, what I want to do for a smalls exchange for StitchCon. So I have threads coming for that. And I don't know, that sounds like a March project. All I have left today is just a little bit of haul. I am certain that between my last video and now, I have made some additional purchases. Like, I know I've bought thread and probably a couple pieces of fabric, but they are filed away somewhere and I don't have them to show you, which I think is fine. I have been cutting back a lot on my spending. Things were getting a little bit out of control and I have a lot of stash. So I've been trying really hard to kind of cut back on some of my spending and purchasing, which has been really hard with all the new market stuff coming out. I did place a market pre-order, but I tried really hard to be intentional with my picks. I pre-ordered 4 charts plus the Nashville cookbook. So it doesn't seem too terrible considering there's like 15 charts that I want. And I still may go back and order a couple more, but for now I feel like 4 is a good number. So we'll see what happens. I am going to 3 retreats this year, and there's always the possibility that I will pick up some more market releases between now and the end of the year. But the few things that I have bought, when Hands Across the Sea released this Anne Campion chart, I had to have it. I did see this back when, I think it was one of their retreat pieces or something, but I've loved it forever and I needed it in my life. So this is Anne Campion. I did pull a piece of Atomic Ranch Dune. This is a 46 count that I think will look lovely, and 103 silk. I don't know what this is. This is 0671. So it's kind of not quite a black. It's a little bit more of like a grayish black, which I think will work. And this does have, so it's a black sampler, but there are down here in the birds, there's some white stitches, and then there's some pink along the dog's collar. And those are called for, but I will just, it's like 5 stitches. I'll just pull something out of my stash for this. I also ordered the Valentine Day Quaker from Primrose Cottage. And I ordered it direct from them. And of course I threw in the called for floss, and this is a 32 count blush, which I think is the called for fabric. I got the finishing kit, but I don't know where I put it. So I don't have that to show you today. I also the last Flosstube that the Attic put out, they showed this chart. This is from Samplers and Primitives. This is the Rose Band sampler. It's beautiful. So it's charted in DMC. I think that the Attic does have a silk conversion, but I've picked up the DMC for this. And I'm just gonna find some fabric in my stash. And I wanna start that right away. And then my last purchase, I saw this chart at retreat last year and fell in love with it, and they sold out at the retreat, and so I wasn't able to purchase it, and so it's just been in the back of my mind that I need to go purchase this at some point. Country Sampler has a kit for it. This is from Thread Milk, just Thread Milk, handmade thread milk design. Catherine W. 1820, Endeavor to Improve. So this is the chart. The Country Sampler conversion is this dark one. So I got the thread pack and the fabric from them, because if you order from Country Sampler, you can order a kit. And it is not gonna focus. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? So I can't wait to start this. This is a 40 count winter wren. I think that's a fox and rabbit. Could be wrong about that. And then my final purchase. So I have seen this finished and being worked on a couple of times at retreats and meetings, and I love it. This is the Floral Motif Sampler from the Scarlet House. It's beautiful. I decided to pick this up, and I did buy all the called for overdyes for it, but then yesterday I saw that Vicki Clayton has a silk pack for it, and I ordered the silk pack. So I've got double the thread. Here's the overdyes. They're beautiful. This is going to be my birthday start. So my birthday is not until May, the end of May. So I got a little jump buying this chart, but it's been sitting in my cart forever, and I wanted it. So I went ahead and ordered it, and then of course when I saw the silk pack, I had to have it. So it's on its way, and I will start that on my birthday. So if you love that sampler too and you want to stitch it with me, feel free, or jump in and stitch it on your own, because it is beautiful. That's all I have to show you today. So I am going to insert some videos at the end of this. So back in January, I took a week-long trip down to North Central Florida, to Crystal River, Florida, to see the manatees. So I have a good friend who we tried to do this trip, gosh, maybe 2017, but we had gone down in March and it was too late. The manatees were already gone. So the manatees will come in to the springs during the wintertime when the water temperatures out in the Gulf of Mexico get too cold for them. In the springs in Florida, the water temperature is always, I think it's always 70 or 74 degrees. So the manatee will come in and congregate either in the springs or just outside of the springs to keep themselves warm. And you can go down there, and we went to the Three Sisters Spring, and we were fortunate enough to go on a high tide day. So the spring was full of manatees, They do an estimated count at the park, and they thought that there were 300 to 400 manatees within the springs and just outside of the springs. It was wonderful. And then we decided one day that we were going to do a snorkeling trip where you could go swim with them. And we did that, and I've done a lot of trips and I've seen a lot of wonderful things. Doing that snorkel trip with the manatees and just going to see them is probably a top 5 for me of the things that I've done so far in my life. I don't know. I love them. They're just the sweetest things. You aren't allowed to touch them because they are a protected animal, but they will swim right up to you and they will bump into you and they will bite you and get right in your face, and it's magical, and I highly recommend it to anyone. We rented an Airbnb, and we were right down on one of the canals, and they did say that the manatee used to come into the canals all the time, but during the last hurricane, a lot of the seagrass was taken out by the storm, and so until that kind of regrows and repopulates, they don't really go into the canals. We did see one day. He just kind of swam in and swam out, but we had dolphins come to the dock every afternoon. They were in hunting some fish, and so we saw them hunting fish. The Airbnb had a couple of kayaks, and so we were able to get out on the water and do some kayaking, and we chased a couple of dolphins one day, and it was a great trip. We made it a working trip, so we had the Airbnb so that we could kind of work most of the day, and then, we went and saw the manatee in the morning. The day we went snorkeling, I think I ended up taking a vacation day, but it was still great. Got some work done and also had a really fun, enjoyable time. So I highly recommend anybody that's able to go do that, and I will insert some videos at the end. I think that's all I have. This is a pretty good length of video, and I've updated you on all my stitching. So I don't know when I'll be back. Hopefully in a month or so I'll have some more finishing and stitching to show you. Until then, be safe and enjoy the manatee video. You guys